Hey guys, what's going on? I'm here on location to talk to you about Roadside Picnic by the Strugatsky brothers. It's set in a world that's been visited by aliens, but they came and went, they didn't even talk to us, and they left behind these zones. Inside these zones are a bunch of traps, a bunch of unimaginable ways to die, and a bunch of alien technology. So it opens up room for this huge black market and for stalkers like our main character to go in illegally and extract these incredibly valuable alien artifacts. So when these zones first appeared, they had to be abandoned, they had to be evacuated, and I imagine they looked something like this: empty, depressing, bleak, cold. It is very cold in here right now. And those are all definitely themes in this book. The main character was born on the outskirts of the zone, made his living inside, watching his friends die pretty horrific deaths. And if you've heard anyone talk about this book, they'll probably mention the plight of the everyman. And the main character of this book is definitely the everyman. There's nothing really exceptional about him. And like Le Guin says in the introduction to this book, and I have to give a shout out to Whitney over at Secret Sauce of Storycraft for warning me against the introduction. There were indeed massive spoilers in there, so I was lucky to save it to the end. Thank you for the tip. But she talks about your class, the class you were born into, and how hard it is to escape that, which is a pretty common theme that you'll see in books, and it is a unfortunate reality. But the book was really fast-paced, it was action-packed, and I wasn't even looking for any kind of deeper meaning until the middle, where there's almost this philosophical interlude, this conversation between two characters you don't know that well, and they're talking about the implications of that alien visit. And there's one of these magical moments when the title of the book finds its way into the text, and there's just this connection made on so many levels, and there's this aha moment. And I don't want to spoil it for you, but it was really magical. And for me, it really emphasized the importance of having a flexible worldview in terms of humans' place in the universe, because as science fiction has told us, at any moment that could be cracked wide open, and if you have this firm stance about how humans are the center of anything, then you're going to get snapped in two. And that also kind of ties into the idea of being locked into the class you're born in. Because you are, if you have an inflexible worldview and you're unable to see past the environment that you're born into. But if you're able to look beyond that, at least your mentality will be able to overcome it. I know there's a lot of other obstacles involved in that, and this is an oversimplification because it's a short nutshell YouTube video, but it was a good reminder for me to not solidify my mentality in any kind of category, especially as an avid sci-fi reader who is made privy to all of these potential scenarios that may occur and all of these things that may shatter everything that we know. I played a video game called Stalker like 15 years ago, which is apparently based on this book, which blew my mind because I always thought it was based on Chernobyl with this zone that's radioactive and dangerous and kind of mysterious. But Chernobyl happened like a decade after this book was written, which was pretty wild. There were parts of this book that were clunky, and it had this kind of merry-go-round POV system where you start off first person with the main character, but then it goes third person, and then you're dealing with this other character entirely. And I don't mind when books do that, but I think there needs to be some kind of rhythm to it where you're not just thrown into this new perspective with every chapter. That could definitely be me. But here we are in the zone, so let's see what kind of alien technology we could find.
Oh, here's a piece of alien tech.
Never seen anything like that before.
Oh, this could be huge.
Who knows the application of this alien circuit board?
Oof. Alien escape pod. That's quite a find. I'll go for a pretty penny.
Next up, we got Sea of Rust by C. Robert Cargill, a book where this setting is still relevant, luckily. I actually received this from a viewer, and I'll pronounce your name correctly this time. Thank you again, Jedi Gen X. It didn't even really make it to my TBR because I started reading it right away. Very relevant to me because I tried to write a book like this. I got like 50,000 words into it about the inevitable robot rights movement and how pretty soon they're going to reach the threshold of intelligence and be deserved certain rights and liberties. And it would be nice if we could all get on the same page about that now. I doubt it'll happen, but, you know, try to avoid the problem before it becomes a problem. In this far future world, AI has unfortunately killed every last human being, and they're now working on killing each other. And if you've read it, you'll know there's a lot of action sequences in the book. And admittedly, I'm not huge on action scenes in books, but they were interspersed with these awesome world-building flashback scenes that I was really into, that tell the tale of how this world came to be and the inevitable AI uprising. I actually learned about halfway through this book that the author co-wrote one of the Marvel movies, and I couldn't break that tie once I saw it. The action sequences were very Marvel-esque, especially the ending of this book, where it has this huge scope all of a sudden, and there's this big action sequences with all these guns and explosions, and by that time I was kind of like, okay, just give me the rundown of this action scene, tell me what the end result is, and let's move along with the story. But luckily, that didn't really strike me until the very end of this book. But there's definitely a lot of merit to this book, and some amount of philosophical depth. I liked how the AIs near the end were lamenting the fact that they killed off all the human beings, that maybe there was something more under the surface that they didn't realize at the time. And only now, when their one goal is blind and rapid reproduction throughout the universe, they're realizing, to what end? What is this really accomplishing? And if your one goal is survival, then you're really missing out on a lot of other stuff. And the one message I'm going to take away from this book, which is a message I've gotten from other books as well, and may only be relevant to this overly rational human being, so if it doesn't serve you, toss it aside, I won't be offended, that in order to be a healthy, well-rounded individual, there is a certain amount of insanity involved. Confusing, I know, but somehow that makes sense to me. All right, we're back at the home library. We're trying to thaw out a little bit. And I got the third book for you, Blood Music by Greg Bear. Comes highly recommended. It's part The Thing, part The Mist, part The Stand. It's got H.P. Lovecraft in there, somehow all tied together with the double slit experiment. If you're reading this and you're not into it, wait 20 pages and you probably will be. Ultimately, it's about an ambitious scientist who creates a microscopic intelligent species and injects it into himself, which was probably a bad move. The situation quickly becomes grave, spreads to a global scale, but the whole time you're wondering to yourself, what is the intent of this microscopic species? And I could bring up Futurama again in this video, the episode where Fry eats an egg salad sandwich from a gas station vending machine and gets worms, but the worms make him stronger and smarter, so what's the trade-off? And there definitely is one in Blood Music, and it's great how he slowly reveals that and he keeps you guessing, like, what the hell's going on? It was really well done. My one gripe I have, and it's with the publisher of this specific edition, there were so many typos. And that's a critique I don't think I've ever had before, but there's nothing like a typo to pull you out of a book. Here's the publisher, there we go, iBooks. And as someone who was alive in the early 2000s, I think iPods just became huge, and every small company was putting I in front of some basic noun to make themselves seem prominent and professional, but in this case, it was not true. In a lot of cases, it wasn't true. So I can't recommend this particular edition. Steer clear of iBooks, I will from now on. But my favorite portion of this book is the one that most resembles The Stand, and it brought me back to when I was reading Stephen King and how I got fully engrossed in his books. And it did it for me here too. That scenario where all of a sudden someone wakes up and everybody's gone and they have to figure out how to survive in this town. I love that kind of story. I love zombie movies. I love zombie books. And I was fully there. I was fully engrossed in this book, and it had been a while since I felt that. Recently, I've just been really concerned about what kind of philosophical elements is the author trying to tell me here, or what's the underlying message, or how is the prose? And it was really nice to just dissolve into a book. It had been a while. Greg Bear did it for me here. Highly recommend all 3 books in this video, and it's always nice when I can do that. And that's what I got for you guys. So as always, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.